Good morning, Happy Valley, and welcome back to another edition of the Penn State 365 podcast. I'm your host, Richie O'Leary, and joined as always when we're talking football, whether it be recruiting or team news, our senior writer, beat writer, whatever you want to call him, Swiss Army knife, Dylan Callahan-Crawley. Dylan, interesting news today. The portal technically closed last night at midnight, but some guys are still sneaking in a little bit as the paperwork had to be filed and stuff like that.
Yep.
Not one, not two, not three. Five guys if you count the one.
Four scholarship, one walk-on. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So let's just go through them all real quick. Just as a quick recap for everyone that doesn't know already. Wait a minute. There we go. Malik McClain, wide receiver. London Montgomery, running back. Golden Israel Achumba, offensive lineman, and safety King Mack, as well as walk-on running back David Kensey. So let's just go one by one with these guys. Let's start with running back London Montgomery, guy we had in the stock down this week too. So
yeah, it's unfortunate situation for Montgomery. I think this is a guy that I think Penn State, a lot of people really like. You look at that offer sheet coming out of Scram Prep. Iowa was on there, Michigan was on there, Michigan State, West Virginia, Penn State, obviously Arizona State, Boston College. He had a really nice offer sheet coming out of Scram Prep. Was a really solid player towards ACL before his senior season there. And, that stunted his development, I think, quite a bit. He came into campus last year, had a rehab all season, basically. I think he was healthy for a majority of it, but there was no reason to rush him on the field. But he still didn't get to play his entire senior season. And he was still working his way back during fall camp because he tore that ACL in August of 2022. So you're talking about 12 months right there for fall camp. And then he couldn't gain weight. And James Franklin was talking about that earlier this spring, about how that lack of weight gain makes it difficult to further your development at this level. And it just that lack of development, and then you add, Cam Wallace has emerged as a true player in that running back room this offseason. He's going to go into the season as the number 3. It was just kind of right on the wall for Montgomery, especially with 3 more running backs coming in this upcoming recruiting class, that it was probably best to look elsewhere because it was going to be tough to find playing time for him. He enters portal. Not surprised by that. Like you said, Marty had him in his stock down for this spring article earlier today or yesterday. And then this was a guy that we kind of pegged this offseason as a potential departure from the program just because of where he sat on the scholarship, on the depth chart and what's coming in. It just didn't seem like a great situation for him going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. There's 2 starting running backs, of course, they're gonna play. End of story.
Right.
We've seen Cam Wallace get some snaps in the spring game. He actually had a little bit of hype behind him. He's probably arguably running back 3. And then you see Quentin Martin go and get a touchdown, who's also fighting for that RB3 spot. So that's 4 dudes, and 2 of them, one's in your class and one's younger than you. So you're kind of you're a little shit out of luck there. Plus the 3 guys coming in, like you mentioned, Alvin Henderson's going to play early.
Yeah, and long-term thinking here, but everybody's like Penn State's bringing in 3 running backs, and barring an absolute surprise or injuries, Katron and Nick are both going to be gone this time next year. So everybody's wondering who that 3rd running back would be. Well, there's your 3rd running back departure. Now there could still be another departure down the road. I don't expect one per se, but if another one wanted to leave because of the talent in that room, I don't think anybody would be surprised necessarily. But again, don't expect that. Just spitball. But yeah, there's 3 potential departures when you think about it. Katron and Nick after the season as they get ready for the draft, most likely, and then London. So there's your 3 open scholarships for 3 running backs.
Yeah. Looking at it, there's 5 ships right now for running backs. It wouldn't shock me if Smith down the line left, to be honest with you. But that's way too far down the line. He's been
absolutely.
Here.
I mean, a guy like him and a guy like Cam Wallace are both going to have to, keep their foot on the gas pedal going forward in their Penn State careers because, Quentin Martin, like we said, is right there. Quentin Martin's going to see playing time as a freshman. I don't think any of us are doubting that. And then those three running backs they're bringing in are pretty damn good. So all of them really are going to have to keep their foot on the gas pedal. It's going to just end up being, if anybody does leave, it's just going to end up being whoever's not developing at the rate as expected, most likely.
Yeah, may the best man win. But anyway, moving on a little bit. This one's not too much of a shock either, I feel like. Malik McClain is back in the portal and joined Penn State last offseason from Florida State. But it just sounds like he just didn't have hands. Probably should have been a DB, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely the case last year. He started off strong with that game against West Virginia, 4 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. Then kind of fell apart after that, and then was a special teams guy for the remainder of the year after the first 3 games. Coming into this late spring, early summer, I had him pegged as a potential number 2 on the depth chart. But yeah, I don't think any of us are necessarily surprised, and it was far from a given that he was going to, have a breakout season this fall. Some guys just don't end up developing at the collegiate level, and Malik McClain is one of those guys. Has all the measurables, has all the talent, just couldn't put it together at Florida State and couldn't put it together at Penn State. Perhaps destination number 3 will be the one that works out for him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he has 1 year left, right, I think?
Yeah, he's entering a true senior year. So
it might be time to just drop a level. I hate to bag on the kid, but I don't know if Power 5 is going to give him a chance.
We're definitely going to see him end up at a G5 here. I don't think there's going to be a Dante Cephas transfer here. Cephas ended up at Kansas State, and I think that's a good landing spot. I think there's plenty of reason to believe in Cephas being able to take that next step for Kansas State this year. But with McClain, he just hasn't, put together in his career thus far. So I'm not sure any Power 2, Power 4, whatever you really want to call it anymore, is going to take a chance on perhaps a Group of 5 program.
Yeah. Next up on the list, offensive lineman Golden Israel Achumba. I know he's a great kid. I know he's a great teammate. I know he played all 12 games last year, technically as a special teams only. But I just 15 scholarship guys at offensive line right now. I don't think he's even going to crack the 2 deep.
This is kind of one of those. It's unfortunate because Penn State's now lost 2 really good team guys this offseason. Not saying the other guys haven't been good team guys, but when you think about strong culture guys, Malik McClain and Malik Mega and Golden Israel Achumba are 2 of those guys that are really strong culture guys. Not necessarily guys who will make an impact on the field, but guys who make an impact on the locker room. Both have now said goodbye to the program this offseason. Not surprised here. He wasn't going to see the field this year outside special teams or, garbage time, really. Good kid. Good teammate, just wasn't a Penn State level player to see the field, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the projected 2 deep. Sorry, it just doesn't seem like he was going to even be on there between either of the guard spots. I guess you can argue with his length he could play some tackle, but 6'4", 330, that screams guard. Wormley Birch at 1, Vega, JB at the other. I'd even argue you probably put someone else above him instead of 3rd string. And I am curious to see where he ends up because offensive linemen in the portal are I don't even know how to describe them. They're just very wanted. They're high priority guys.
It's like a moth to a lamp. College football programs swarm offensive linemen. I mean, it's not a perfect example, but Minnesota just took a kid from UTEP, who's 6'8", 380, played in a handful of games last year. But, when you can get offensive linemen in the portal, there's not many high-quality offensive linemen in the portal. I'm not saying Israel Achumba is a high-quality offensive lineman in the portal, but he's somebody who's been around a major college football program for a number of years. Could easily see the field for maybe a Group of 5 or definitely, an FCS team if he chooses.
And I know I know last year the going rate for like an average offensive lineman was like 400K. It sounds like it's up to 500K this offseason.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's considered 500K average, but I would say he can probably go make like 100K somewhere down at the lower levels. So we'll wait and see what he does. But last but not least, probably the one that stings the most though, King Mack, defensive back, former 4-star, former Rivals 150 kid. Out of Florida. I know we actually just talked about him a little bit because we were talking about Conrad Hussey, who was also his teammate committed, and he left. Now King Mack's gone too.
Yeah. Great timing there by us, huh? Yeah, this was a little bit of the surprising one. And by a little bit, I mean it was definitely surprising that if you think about even a couple of days ago, we wouldn't have necessarily thought he would be a guy who's leaving. But I don't think this was a playing time issue. He was going to obviously, see the field quite a bit for Penn State in 2024, be a primary backup at safety, one injury away from being a starter. And next year he was going to definitely become a starter for the Nittany Lions. So this is a major loss. This is the one that stings the most. So I'll be interested to see where he ends up. If I imagine he's going to head back down to Florida, Miami, Florida State, all would make sense there.
Yeah, Florida State, like we mentioned, they did take Conrad Hussey's teammate. Yep. They both were committed at one point. They seem like they're both very close. Makes a ton of sense. We know Miami has been just chucking money around for fun at this point. It seems like, hey, we can't win, so let's just keep trying to buy a team. It might work eventually. Don't get me wrong. But and then Florida has a nice little NIL bank too, although they have a coach that might not be there in next year at this time. So
So if he ends anywhere else but a Florida school, I would be very surprised. But yes, I definitely say those three Florida schools should be among the favorites. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, and this is just speculation, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some back channeling from another coaching staff with this one. Often in these situations, let's be honest, often in a lot of these situations, that's what's happened. Kids may end up taking visits elsewhere, but most kids have a 95%, not most kids, but there are quite a few kids who have, a 95% assurance of where they're going to end up going. So I'll be interested to see where he ends up. And if it's not a Florida school, I'll be very surprised. I guess you could even throw UCF potentially in the mix there. UCF has plenty of money and would make sense as well.
Yeah, I know sometimes when they know where they're going, they will put a do not contact tag on them on their profile. Not any of these guys have that. Yes. So that is something to monitor. I think he's going to play it out a little bit and see what schools are interested. And honestly, King Mack can make a good amount of money, and that's crazy to say because it's just based off recruiting ranking mostly. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean he did play in all 13 games last year, but we didn't see him. We didn't see him a ton. We saw him a good bit. He's a superb athlete, projects very well to the collegiate level. And like I said, he was going to be a starter for Penn State in 2025. If you're going to start at safety for Penn State based off what Penn State's been doing at safety the last few years, you're a pretty damn good safety. Yeah,
no, of course. Now let me ask you this: are they done? Is that it? Do we think, or is someone else going to sneak in late?
I think. For now, I think they are I think they're probably done for now. I would be surprised just because we did see a lot of those entries get thrown in at one time. So you would think if all the paperwork be processed, there'd be more. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a departure or two this fall before the season officially begins.
Yep. So, all right, cool. So that's really it. This is kind of a shorter podcast. It seems like sting factor wise, and you could correct me if I'm wrong here, the first three, whatever, is what it is. It does suck to lose them a little bit, but it is what it is. The last one, King Mack's the one that stings a little bit.
Yeah. If you're doing a 1 to 5 sting grade on those, I think Mack is a 4.5 sting grade just because of the upside there. He was going to be a starter for you in 2025, and then. McClain, a 2.5, maybe a 3 at tops, just because a lot of question marks there. Obviously, a lot of upside, but a lot of question marks. And the other two, no disrespect to them, are definitely ones. And then David Kensey, obviously wasn't going to see the field for Penn State as a walk-on, but I'll be very intrigued to see where he ends up. Elite speed on him, smaller running back, but I think he could end up at a G5 and see quite a bit of play time, or I think he could be a starter at the FCS level. So I think I'll be intrigued. I'll definitely be intrigued to see where he ends up coming out of the portal.
He's intriguing, and I'm actually curious where London Montgomery goes. I think a P5 might take a shot on him. He's got some good film before the injury. He was a good running back before an injury, so yeah, it's just kind of curious to see where everything is, where it's all going to go. But yeah, that's really all we got right now. I'm sure we'll have another podcast soon. We just posted one on the wrestling off season and Carter Starachi coming back. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out on our YouTube page below. It's also on our podcasting sites, whether it be Spotify, Apple, etc. And I think that's really it. Oh, this Sunday I'll be at the Under Armour camp, which is going to have McClary. Who else? Hold on, I'm going to pop it up now. Yep. There was like 3 or 4 Penn State commits, I believe. Where is it? Roster announced. Matt Zollers will be there. Obviously, Penn State's still pushing, although he's a Missouri commit. DJ McClary will be there. Penn State commit. Andrew Olish, Penn State Futurecast. And Lyric Samuel will also be there. So I'll have some updates on those guys. I'll talk to them, see what how they're looking, number one, too. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll have videos on our Twitter page at Penn State Rivals. So definitely check all that out. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. Give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the good apps. Yep. We're on TikTok as well. I hate it. I don't want to talk about it.
Of course, here on YouTube as well.
Yes, YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Free, easy, simple. It helps us grow the pod. It helps us get to more of Nittany Nation out there. So for me and Dylan, that's another episode of the Penn State 365 podcast. Signing off.